using today, guys. So that's where you guys can get networked and connected with all the stakeholders in the Middle East and North Africa startup ecosystem that are participating today. Guys, we're going to get started in just about 5 or 6 minutes now. But again, if you guys have been with us all day, that's awesome. If you're new to this stream, my name is Andrew Rickwitz. I'm the executive producer and host of the Global Startup Movement. We are a Washington, D.C. media insights organization that provides candid coverage and insights and analysis into emerging market tech and innovation industries. And today we're wrapping up our 6-week Middle East and North Africa mini-series. We've had 6 podcast episodes. We've had 16 startups competing in our live stream pitch competition. And we have some really exciting investors joining us today. And Monica from Finlect will also be pitching. She is the definitive champion of our Pitch Me to Live competition. So we're super happy and grateful to have her with us today. And we've been building a lot of momentum here, guys. On Monica's episode during week 1, we had just about 1,300 people tuning in. And now we're regularly hitting about 4,000 viewers per episode. And right now, about 74 of you are joining in over on YouTube. 92 of you actually are joining over on YouTube. I see a couple of you on Facebook, and most of you are in Hopin. Again, guys, Hopin is where we're doing all of our virtual networking sessions today. So we've kept that super highly curated, very limited number of emails that we allowed into Hopin. So if you want to do any one-on-one networking beyond just tuning into the series, that's the best place to do it. It's really high quality ecosystem builders, investors, and entrepreneurs that are involved in some way, shape, or form in the Middle East and North Africa tech and innovation ecosystems. All right, guys, we're going to get started super quick here. I'm going to introduce Monica to the stage. Then I'm going to introduce some of our great judges. But before we get started, what I want to do, guys, is I want to play for you the deliberation that the judges had in episode 1 that determined Monica as the winner. So let me bring this up on the screen, make sure you guys can hear it well. Let's see.
Has done there. So my vote would go to resource first of here. And I think I'm a big supporter of female founders. I loved what Monica has done there. And I think we need to focus on the next generation because they are like the customers that we also need to leverage, which hasn't been done very well in the Middle East region. And there's like a niche there. Like Experian is a good example for them to look at, but they can implement it within the specific segment they're looking after. So I would say, these are my picks.
And, just one of the comments I didn't get a chance to say is credit scores, as you see companies like Tabby and all these guys who are doing, buy now, pay later, how do you accumulate the data, right? And how do you get access to that data is still a question in this region, right? Where in the United States, you make a phone call, they've got data and it's accessible to everyone. So I'm a little concerned on figuring out someone's credit score here. Which is a reason why Tabby scares me. Everybody loves it, but it scares me a little bit because I would love to see how you come up with a credit score in a region of the world where data is so inaccessible, right?
So we need to create the change. So let's that's why I'm rooting for them.
I'm rooting for them too. I'm just making that comment.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it is 9:59 Eastern time. So we're going to do one more official certification. So whatever you say right now is your official certified answer that we're moving forward with for the winner. So Ramsey, what is your official certification after that conversation?
And Monica.
Joy.
I'll put my vote for Fintellect if she guarantees that the founder is going to show up. But if not, then yeah.
All
So
right.
how do I do one foot in? because I'm a big supporter of women founders, but ones that show up. So how do I put one foot in, one foot? I mean,
Monica, so we can see Monica. Look, give us a thumbs up if we can get the founder on during the next pitch. Oh, that's a thumbs up. All right, there you go, Joy. And then
how about a thumbs up for making Monica co-founder? Thumbs up because she speaks very well.
It's sorted. Like Joy has solved the problem. So my vote would go to female founders. Like it's just we need them in the region, to be honest. So and it's the business concept is really needed in the region. It's a niche market. I support Ventilation.
All right, guys. So there you go. That was the 1 second. All right, guys. So that was how we got here. Monica won the first round. Although Monica, that co-founder thing, it might come back to haunt you. But here you are, final winner, anyways. So now what we're gonna do, guys, is we're gonna introduce the judges, and then we're gonna bring Monica to the stage for her pitch, and we'll get right into things. So first off, we have the wonderful Joy Ajlauni. As always, my new best friend in the Middle East. Joy, welcome to the stage. Welcome to Pitch Meet Alive.
Hi. So Monica's pitching today. Is that what you're telling me? Who's pitching today?
1 second. I don't think I can hear you.
No.
But that might just be my problem. Let's see.
Want to try it? Can you hear me now? Nope.
All right, Joy, can you talk?
I'm talking, but you can't hear me,
okay,
right?
Maybe it's just me. Okay, so let me bring up our next judge to the stage. We have Andrew Romans. Andrew raised $48 million for startups he founded by the age of 28. He's currently the general partner at 7BC Venture Capital and the host of the podcast Fireside with a VC. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you. Can you see me here? Good to be with you.
Awesome. Great to have you here. And so I'm 27, Andrew. I haven't raised any venture capital. So there's still hope. I got to raise 48 million over the next year in order to match.
Sometimes it's good to do it when you're young, before you have kids in private school or whatever. Take a risk.
And just give me one second. Sorry, guys. I'm having some technical difficulties with my headphones.
Can't hear?
Oh, now I can.
Yay, you can hear.
I can hear. Beautiful. Great. And finally, we have my favorite VC that is based in South Carolina that also invests in the Middle East. We have Simon. Simon, welcome to the show. Simon, can you hear us?
I don't think I can hear you, Andrew.
Oh no, I guess okay. So interesting. Can Joy, Andrew, can you guys hear me?
I can hear
you perfectly.
Okay, cool. So I guess
hear Joy and Andrew great.
So I guess it's just a Simon problem. It all happened and went wrong with that video that I just played. I don't know. Maybe next time I won't play any videos, but I see. Awesome. We have about 255 of you guys over on YouTube. Again, feel free to hop in our virtual events platform to where you can get actually networked into the community that we're building here. But we're going to bring Monica to the stage. Sharks, we'll see you guys later. Monica, welcome to Pitch Meet Alive. Monica, you there? Okay, now I see you. Let's see. Can you confirm that you can hear me?
I think I'm facing a little bit of a technical issue. Hi, I'm here, but I have a technical issue.
Okay, no worries.
There's a slight lag.
That's fine. I think we can still hear you.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you see me?
We can still hear you pretty well. We can see you. Yes. So Monica, I'm gonna hand it off to you to start the pitch. Do you want to share your screen, or do you have any slide decks to accompany it?
Okay. So there's a slight lag. There's a slight lag, so please bear with me.
Cool. Well, Monica, I'm going to hand the mic off to you. So feel free to get started.
Can you see my deck?
Yes. 1 second. Let me bring that to the screen. One more second. So Monica,
Hi, my name is Monica. Can
So
I
Monica,
begin?
can you
There's
share
a
your
serious lag.
can you share your screen one more time?
Hmm.
And guys, this is live content, right? We're live,
I
we're
am sharing
here.
it.
We're okay, cool. Let me see if I can bring it up. Let's see.
Yeah.
So I see, oh, now I see it. Beautiful. All right. The floor is yours, Monica.
Hmm. Thank you, Andrew. Hi, my name is Monica, and I'm the COO of Finlect. Finlect is a financial wellness app for Gen Zs to build credit, pre-qualify for financial products, and automate their expenses. The world of banking has dramatically changed. Banks have great infrastructure, technology, and even the best people. Yet one-third of the MENA region is unbanked. These are individuals who are financially active, eligible for financial products, and actually want better services. Unfortunately, they do not fit the age-old qualification criteria set up by banks and credit bureaus. In addition to this, the existing solutions are far too overwhelming and complex. All of this, coupled with the significant lack of financial literacy, is the reason why MENA's largest demographic is still out of the ecosystem. But what if we build a bridge between these young consumers and financial service providers? Well, that's what we do. Finlect enables the next generation of consumers to become more creditworthy. The app allows its users to build credit and pre qualify for the right financial products, automate and categorize their expenses more seamlessly, and learn using bite sized financial content. In addition to this, users can now link their bank accounts to the app and add accuracy in tracking their financial health. So, how exactly do we do this? Well, instead of factoring in income, credit utilization, and credit history, Finlect allows its users to build credit using recurring micropayments such as Netflix and Amazon bills, in app activities such as consuming content and attempting quizzes, and monitoring and managing their budgets more tightly. All of this is in addition to being completely easy, accessible, and free to build. Young adults can now use our credit score as a base or a foundation to pre qualify for the right financial products and get access to the financial ecosystem. Banking 300 million Gen Zs is an $80 billion market. Our launch market, UAE alone, has over 1.4 million Gen Zs. How we've come up to these big figures is pretty simple. We factored in their individual spending power, their influence on family spending, and the amount of money that huge companies and retailers are investing in acquiring these young customers. Our competition really excites us. We're directly competing with US based credit scoring algorithms and platforms such as Credit Karma and CreditWise, and global fintech companies such as Tala, Petal, and Current. What really excites us about this competition is the fact that credit scoring platforms such as Credit Karma are now being acquired by bigger fintech heads such as Intuit at valuations of over 8.1 billion and more. So this means that we have a clear exit strategy and a strong foothold because we're in a developing and emerging market. But one thing to keep in mind is that the fintech space in this specific market is quite fragmented. Every fintech is approaching this with an either or focus. But what really sets us apart is our singular focus on solving the problem of this specific target market and our holistic approach in combining financial content and tools to allow our users to build, monitor, and boost their credit scores. We charge banks. It's pretty simple. We charge them a 5% flat commission fee for every product that every user is pre qualified for using the FinLec credit score. In addition to this, we're extending the product's capability and building an API for pre qualifications for local banks and other financial service providers to integrate with their existing mobile banking solutions. We launched in April 2020 at the bang of COVID, and we're proud to say that we've so far acquired over 12,000 beta users onto the app. Our monthly month-on-month growth rate is at 30%, and we've acquired all of these customers using community-based events, university and local community partnerships, and digital marketing strategies. Our goal is very simple. It's two-pronged. We want to reduce our customer acquisition costs and improve the lifetime value of our customer. The goal is to reduce our customer acquisition by making the app extremely engaging, and involving the user in using more than one service within a one year span. We want to be the one-stop shop for financial wellness for anybody in this demographic. Moving forward, we're expanding our pre-qualification feature within the app by launching our virtual card feature, which was not just going to allow our users to go cashless, but also boost their credit and pre-qualify for the right products in this pursuit. All of our tech, design, and content has been built in-house. On the team, we have an average of 25 plus years of experience in working within the financial services sector with financial institutions and for fintechs. In addition to this, what's more important is that we have on average 25 plus years experience each in not having access to the right financial products at the right time. And this is why we're best positioned to solve this problem. So join us on this journey and let's not leave the largest demographic out of the financial ecosystem. Thank you. I'd love to take any questions.
Great job, Monica. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to bring each of the judges up for a Q&A format, and then we're going to do a quick product demo right afterwards. So why don't we start with Joy, Andrew, Simon to the stage. See, did we lose Monica or Maimuna? Is this the founder joining? Oh, there you go, Joy.
Can you
Oh
hear me?
my gosh, yes, we can.
I thought I'd say hello to everyone, and I'm sorry I couldn't make it earlier. I think Monica did mention earlier I was recovering from COVID, but we had a very funny series of technical glitches right at the start of the pitch. So Andrew, whilst you were trying to get Monica's screen online, you kept trying to bring me to the podium, so I had to leave this room. So Monica could actually
interesting.
pitch.
Yeah, I saw two bubbles. I was like, okay, I think it's this one. Oh wait, okay. Well, this is a M. Night Shyamalan quality twist we got here. So this is good. This is good content.
We've swapped places now. This is like Freaky Friday.
Okay. Because Monica made me the promise that you would show up if she made it to the finals.
And here we are.
Yep, and we've kept our promise. Just a week having recovered from COVID and just tackling the typical hustle. I just got off another angel pitch that we're doing at an accelerator that we're part of. So glad to meet you, everyone. Andrew, Simon, Joy, very happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get into the Q&A format. I saw everybody pretty furiously taking notes. I don't know who wants to kick us off.
Well, I'd like to ask a question. Maimuna, nice to meet you. You had one slide that showed some sort of traction, but I couldn't quite see it as it was small on my computer. Just help me understand what stage the company is at now. Mm-hmm. Maybe what's the capital fundraising history of the company to date? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And where are you in beginning to acquire customers and monetize, and kind of what is historical financials, like monthly recurring revenue?
Sure, absolutely. Just before I get started on that, Andrew, I can see Monica just dropping us a note that she's facing some technical issues. So I hope that her absence now is not going to disrupt this, but I'll get on to answering that question right now.
Okay.
All right. So just in terms of the progress that we're at, so we're pre-revenue, we've completed the build of our product, and we're in the second phase of a regulatory licensing, both in the Dubai Financial Services Authority and the ADGM. In terms of what's regulated on the product, the formulation of a score, irrespective of the parameters that you add into the score, is not a regulated activity. It is the acceptance of the score by a bank that's a regulated activity. Just on that front, we're in conversations at an early stage with 2 local banks that are working with us on a sort of pre-pilot to test and validate the acceptance of our score. Going back to the traction that you've seen, and I know you've asked me a few questions, so I'll take these one at a time. The traction, we've built a basic community of 12,000 individuals, 60% of whom have access to a bank account at the moment, but are very new to financial services. So typically what would happen in terms of them approaching the local credit bureau to access or get get a score for themselves, is the score that they would be able to avail would not meet the expectations of a bank, so they're likely to get rejected. The credit bureau charges you for the score that it asks you, that it provides you. You get a rather intransparent report, and checking your score results in a negative search result, which lowers your score even further. All of those things we don't do. So the score's free. We allow you to essentially be able to build it using accessible parameters, and you can check it 100 times a day if that's something that interests you. Just on the amount of capital raised, so we've been bootstrapped since inception, obviously launched in the second quarter of last year. We have funded the company through personal savings and grants, which we've raised equity free, no strings attached. But most recently, in November of last year, we've signed a convertible with Startup Bootcamp FinTech based out of the DIFC in Dubai. This has been a $125,000 convertible at a 2.1 million valuation without a discount.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
And Joy or Simon, do you have any questions as well?
Yeah,
by the way,
sorry.
guys, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
I was just saying, after we do this Q&A session, Maimuna, we would love to dive into just a quick product demo. I know Monica had a quick video teed up. I don't know if you have that on your end as well. But yeah, Simon, I'll let you go ahead.
Can you talk just very briefly? I saw you track micropayments, but what else makes up the score?
So a very high level overview on what goes into data points. These come from three major sources. The first is your recurring micropayments. Micropayments are defined as rent, utilities, gas subscriptions over a 6-month period of time. And this is a payment that you're likely to make more than thrice over the course of 6 months. The parameters are intentionally low, so they meet the particulars of the demographic that we're targeting. We can't accept or expect a sort of higher threshold to be placed there, because then again, we're back into the loop of them not being able to meet those criteria. In terms of the second parameter, so Monica mentioned earlier that the application offers bite-sized financial content and smart financial tools for users to be able to level up on their ability to manage their finances. That entire process is gamified. So you earn points on the application. Those points convert to a boost in your credit score. The third parameter is more focused on predictive behavior. So we look at the user's ability to meet budgets on the application. What can they actually do? So the test is essentially, if you have a 23-year-old that is capable of meeting 3 budgets a year, that in a reasonable manner, from a bank's perspective, we've already eliminated the risk of default, because that shows the customer isn't going to fail on a payment. So those are the 3 sort of parameters at the moment. As Monica mentioned, our product sort of pipeline, the strategy moving forward is to introduce a virtual card that will allow users to boost their score with each payment made through the card. So that will become the 4th parameter.
And do you have, I realize it's early days, but do you have data around that the data you're gathering actually will dictate whether or not people are higher or low risk of default?
So just in terms of qualifying what risk of default is, because that's a really interesting question, and we have had a lot of discussions with banks on this as well. Ultimately, the acceptance of a score when it comes to issuing a financial service is sitting on the parameter of, is this customer likely to default? How you define default doesn't necessarily come from their income or the number of loans they've taken in the past. So the data that we've built and the transactions that we've analyzed so far on a beta basis through the users that we have shows that these users are not likely to default on payments. And we categorize, or we allow users to tag and untag payments in a very smart manner. So tomorrow, let's say you currently have 6 subscriptions. Tomorrow you decide to fall back on 4, and you're not likely to ever get back to those. You can actually untag those as a recurring micropayment. So we won't compute that or take that into account in formulating your credit score.
Is there a risk of 2 questions. So is there a risk of users manipulating the score if you put it into their hands? 1, and 2, I assume you have a weighting of things like rent versus paying for your Netflix have different weighting on the score. And just do you think about it in a way I used to work in consumer financing for a credit card company. So do you think of it in a way of this is a certain type of payment that people make to survive? So like rent, right? You're going to most likely not default on rent. You're going to default on your student loans first, and then you're going to default on rent. So do you think of it in that way as well?
So just on the first question about the risk of abuse, we've done everything we can on our end to mitigate and manage that. I think even banks with the existing infrastructure they have and the most advanced fintechs that do credit scoring, including Experian, have a tangible risk of default, and that's always going to be around. It's sort of like expecting someone to not regain weight when they lose it at first instance. But the way that we manage that is, once we don't take into account the user's income, credit history, as well as their utilization, it's not something that we aren't aware of. So we do profile that data, we collect it from the user, we ensure they verified it through proper documentation. It's just a quick upload on the application. And of course, the most important thing about a score is that it's a scale. So it goes up and down. You only get access to a good score if your behavior is good enough. If your behavior doesn't indicate that you're meeting up your requirements, then you're not likely to reflect. Just on the student loan versus Netflix point, I think through the basic community that we've built and generally the way that the product is designed, we've been able to validate that there is a need for customers to access these products in the market. I think when we talk about default, there is a risk, but it's also one of those things that's a measure of last resort. Given how law enforcement works locally, you could end up with a suit from a debt collector if you risk default. So I don't think customers are inclined on doing that. I understand Netflix is a much better way to spend your time than paying back debt, but it's something that users are quite aware of.
Yep, cool. Well, thank you. I'll flip it over to Joy here in 1 second, but nice job. I think this is a big issue, even in the U.S. Like there's a lot of holes in the credit scoring system, in particular, like not taking into effect rent. Like it's the biggest payment most people have every single month, and it doesn't go towards your credit score, your ability to buy a home, for example. So thank you. Nice job.
Thanks, Simon.
All right, we're going to bring Joy and Andrew back. Joy, I think you were going to ask a question right before Simon started.
I was. So I'm always concerned about, and I'm going to say this, I'm always concerned about, and I think I've said this before, but I'm going to say it. When I built Fetcher to 6,000 employees in 6 countries, I was shut down in Saudi Arabia literally every 6 weeks. Every 6 weeks, I was on a plane with a big tape from the government across my board going, "We have shut you down." So anytime you step on somebody else's income, they're definitely, that's bigger than you and more powerful than you, they're going to cause you trouble. So this is why I'm always terrified of investing in fintech in this region, because I've experienced it, right? I've experienced stepping on Sheikh blah blah blah's company and Saudi, and stepping on Sheikh blah blah blah's company. Anytime I took money out of their pocket, I swear to you, there was a big tape across, like shut down, right? So what I'm asking you is regulation. And since I'm the only one who lives in this region, Mamouna, you know that I understand regulation, and you know that I know you're working with DIFC and ADGM, and I mean the governments of Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Have you given any thought to the difficulties that you might encounter going forward? It's a real fair question. It's a fair question taken from another female founder in this region who has come up with a lot of disrupting regulations. So you tell me. I mean, everyone talks about disruption, but when you step on somebody's wallet who's bigger than you, it's a scary place to be, because it's not your platform, right? This platform doesn't belong to us. We're all guests here, right? This is not our hometown, so we're visitors. So do you take into account making someone angry and not being able to get the regulations that you need?
I love that question, because it doesn't just highlight, the risk that every fintech faces. Yeah, but I think it also highlights the struggle that you've personally faced as an entrepreneur. And I think ultimately, this regulation is a risk that's always going to be around. Everyone is aware that until 3 years ago, open banking was legal in the MENA region. Saudi and UAE being the major points of entry into the market have only recently legalized open banking. And we also all remember the open letter that a number of API enablers wrote to the Central Bank of the UAE just, I think, less than a year ago, requesting for the potential concern around the regulatory ban to be swatted away. So that is a concern that is going to stick around in an emerging market. But ultimately, I think the only way you can disrupt a government-led or an institutional change is through a solution that creates an accessible route to get in. The way that we're seeing ourselves counter regulation, just specifically off the back of conversations we've had with regulators, is a two-pronged approach. So to start with, the way that the score would work, and this is how we see this building, is a complementary to the existing credit bureau score, because what we can provide is contextual data on a young demographic that the current credit bureau cannot provide to the bank, irrespective of the 15, 20, 35 SaaS agreements they have with the banks or the commissioning fee that they charge on these products. The ability that we have to be able to engage these customers, to profile this data and build this financial identity for them is something that at this stage is both what banks and the credit bureaus need. So the tough, scary crowd might actually realize that this is more of a complementer than something that could potentially eliminate them. And that's exactly what's happened with banks when it comes to open banking in this region as well. I mean, I
just get a little worried about it, Mamouna, because the other, again, because I'm somebody who's experienced it. If you want to talk to me offline, I can give you all the horror stories on the planet. I'm glad to share them with you, right? I'm 18 years old. Look at me. I look 60, right? That's what it does to you. It makes you 60 years old overnight. So what I want to tell you is that yes, it's needed. I'm just a little afraid of it. That's all. And I'm also afraid of them coming up with it. Now I know what you're going to say. Like, for example, Tabby, right? Tabby is now, you see ADGM and all these guys coming up with buy now, pay later, right? So what they're doing is they're seeing the innovation and then they're just copying it, right? So it's something to be aware of. It's just a question that I wanted to throw out there. But thanks for explaining it. I realize that you guys are going to have your challenges. I think it's very needed. Don't misunderstand me. I mean, when we raised Fetcher, we had $11 million in the bank and we couldn't get a credit card.
Absolutely.
I mean, so if there's any region in the Middle East that needs disrupting more than anything on earth, it's the banking. And it's the credit situation. I agree. I think what also scares me, Mamouna, is that it's, UAE in particular is a very transient place. Nobody stays here. They get a visa for 2 years. I think your solution is going to definitely be more important in Saudi Arabia, where you've got a population of 36 million people that are actually indigenous to the region and live there. So I think I see this a bigger solution and a bigger problem solver more for Saudi, because this region is so transient.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Saudi is a huge priority market for us. Just going back on the risk and the competition about, institutional players adopting the same model. I think we'd rather be talked about than not be talked about, because that proves that this market is big and it's happening now. So, I think everyone, all fintechs, Tabby and otherwise, that are building, BNPLs or same-day salary advance companies, they know what's coming at them. But I think, that's a risk that we have to carefully mitigate and be able to manage. And I think the way out for us is to make sure that this engine remains as scalable and as accessible as possible. And we've already started working on that. So two things that are quite exciting are, one, we're in conversations with utility providers to pull telco data, because apart from the thermometer that they show you on your Diva bill for your over the environment consumption or below, there's nothing that they do with customer data. So that's a very interesting development. Just on the Saudi market, we've also had some very interesting, very early stage conversations with Zain Microfinance, and they've now become regulated to provide same day microfinance loans to individuals across Saudi. It's the region with the largest debt in this country. So people need friendlier solutions to actually be able to, or friendlier credit scores to actually be able to access these solutions. So there's definitely definitely a lot of room for us to be able to carefully mitigate this risk. Just in terms of, on the BNPL and the same day salary companies that you've mentioned, I think their concern as well is, they want people to shop online and pay later, but that pay later is subject to a score that's inaccessible and it's difficult to build. So their barrier is the AECB and the rigid score that they get. And that's where we also fit in really well, because we're able to then help them get this audience and really be able to, then essentially get financial services connected to this demographic.
Yeah. No, for sure. Very needed, very needed. Again, I think more with Saudi than here, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Saudi reminds me a lot of Nigeria as a market. Just like a lot of people, not necessarily high GDP per capita, but huge market size. That is like the market to win in the region. And I think I completely agree with Joy, especially this credit score issue that we have in the region.
I mean, we've talked about this. I'd be really interested to see what the default is. I mean, Andrew and I have had these conversations. Buy now, pay later. I would love to see the data on the default, especially in the UAE, because everybody can buy now, pay later, and then hop on a plane and leave. Nobody's indigenous to this region. You got to remember that. Nobody lives here. We're all guests in the UAE, right? So it's not like if you default, they can chase after you. You get on a plane and you leave. So I'd love to see that. Again, I think this is more of a solution for Saudi. And I would love to see a credit score. Honestly, I think what you're doing is great. I think it's really, really needed. You're basically building the social security in a way, right? The MENA region.
Yeah, a friendlier one.
So Maimouna, so now we're going to get into the product part of the pitch. I saw Monica sent me a link to the product demo in the chat. I could pull up on my end, or if you have it on your end.
Yeah, sure. So it is a UC video. Let's cross our fingers that this works out.
So at the bottom middle, you can share your screen.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm just waiting for this to open up. Sorry.
Cool. No worries.
Okay.
And again, for all you tuning in, I see 127 of you over on YouTube. Feel free to hop over to Hopin, which is where we're facilitating all of our high quality networking sessions. And that's wide open for the next few hours. Cool. So I'm going to see on your screen.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Brilliant. I'm going to see, hopefully this works out.
You might have to.
It's time consuming, difficult, and stressful. Discover the simple truth about money with Finlect. You can now build a better credit score more easily for free. You can do it as many times as you like. You can continue to raise your finance game with bite-sized financial content on how to budget, save, invest, earn, and improve your financial wellness only on Finlect. With monitoring your micropayments, credit mix, budgets, credit utilization, and points to boost your score. Hold on, points? Yup, you've got that right. You earn points for each financial win with Finlect. We celebrate your progress with rewards that help you save even more. What's more, you can now track all of your expenses, borrowings, and income, and set up and monitor budgets in one place with Finlect. We keep you in control of the wheel, so you know exactly what's in your wallet. Bring mindfulness to money with Finlect. Finance? Oh, yes, you can.
All right, so I'm going to bring all the judges to the stage, see if we have any product questions after that video. I mean, my question would be, I guess, like, that video makes it seem like there's an ed tech or like education component to the product. Like, is there any desire or like, is there a monetization path for you in terms of like a freemium or premium education like services model for some of your users?
So we don't necessarily categorize that as ed tech, but we look at that as financial content that typically operates as an explainer to help users really understand what to do with the product, what to do with the pre-qualifications, and how to pre-qualify for these services. Ultimately, what the financial content does is the way that you consume the content translates into points, and those points help you boost your credit score. It's not the largest or the sole determinator. It's a very minor fraction, but it's a great way to incentivize users to be able to do so. Just on pre-qualifications, the way that we've mapped this to be a concern is banks struggle with helping users understand how their products actually work. This is a great way for us to actually plug in information around that and help users understand, how that would work. On monetization, the application in itself right now is entirely free, and on launch will be free to the user. But with the virtual card component, ultimately the aim is to get the user as close to the transaction and building the score as possible. So that component will come at a subscription.
I mean, that's interesting. You go ahead, Andrew.
I was just going to ask, it seems like the content is a good way to ultimately lower your CAC and build in stickiness. With the revenue model for the business, your presentation showed 5% of the financial services adopted by your user from the partnering financial services company. Is there, does the card act as like a Visa card or a credit card? I mean, is there another revenue model here?
Yeah, so right now on launch, the main revenue model or the primary source of revenue for us will be this commission that we charge a bank, a financial institution, or a fintech. The reason I distinguish between the three is because we're also looking at microfinance institutions that offer these microloans. The commission is calculated off the back of the total value of the product. So this can range from an auto loan for 100,000 dirhams payable in 12 monthly installments to a credit card, right? We would charge the percentage of a credit card of the user's credit limit, which is typically 3x their salary, but that's just sort of variant on how or what the product the user being qualified for is. The card element, that does bring in an additional revenue stream. So there would be a transactional payment processing fee that we would charge users for payments facilitated through the card.
And which would come first, and what needs to happen with the company to go from where you are today to getting that first revenue?
So right now, just in order of priority, our focus is the credit score engine, the pre-qualification, and the commission associated to it. The card is still in our pipeline. It's something that we're only expecting to be able to introduce at the end of this year or the first quarter of 22. And just in terms of profitability, to be able to make a card work as a solid revenue stream, you'd need about 20 to 30,000 active card users. So it only makes sense to introduce the card when we've got that volume that we can tap into. And as soon as we're able to tap into them, then we're on our way to make revenue solidly from that stream.
Would that card be viewed as competitive to your own customers for whom you're charging the 5%?
No, because that's a virtual card that's prepaid that allows you to facilitate easy payments and boost your score. So this is very similar to Chime's Credit Builder. If you're familiar with that product, that doesn't stop a customer from getting an auto loan. That doesn't stop a customer from advancing their salary, because we personally, as an individual or as a company, are not a lending institution. That's not something we can provide. And at the grassroots level, the block or the barrier for the customer is this score. So the minute we disrupt that, the card essentially gets the customer closer to the transaction and allows us to rather keep them on the app in circles, so we improve stickiness.
So when would you expect the first revenue for Finlect? And I guess this is coming from the 5%. When would you expect that to happen?
So the product is officially launched in the market at the end of March next month. We expect to be making our sort of breaking even into revenue by the start of the fourth quarter of 21. This is the 6-month period that we're sort of buffering in, is the validation of the score for the POCs that we're working on with these two banks, and that's sort of how long we estimate those POCs to be able to take. By then, we would have also fully exited the reg labs that we're passive right now, both in the DIFC and the ADG. So the timelines would allow us to introduce, or become revenue making whilst being fully regulated.
So to get into the capital requirements, to understand that, how many employees do you have, or what expenses do you have with dev, and what's your monthly expenses and how much money do you need to even get to that revenue to be able to perhaps raise funding again?
Sure. So just a bit by way of a bit of a background on our team. So we have 6 full-time employees on the team. My personal background is in asset finance. So asset finance, I used to be an asset finance lawyer facilitating ship sales, working in trade logistics and commodities for trade operators, port terminals. Our COO, Monica, who just pitched, is a fintech production engineer who's had first-hand experience in managing a lot of grunt production work with card implementations for Wirecard and Santander, whilst handling accounts for Visa and MasterCard. Our CTO, who's built the entire credit score engine and, of course, the entire product himself, is a full-stack developer who owns a successful software development agency in Nigeria. He's no longer actively involved in supporting the agency. There are 25 employees that successfully run it, but in his career or his stint there, he's built over 100 applications for 40 clients, including some of which were government-backed institutions in Nigeria. With dev costs, or specifically what's been spent to build the product, get the beta traction and get us to this stage, we've invested about $30,000 in building the product, putting in the first commitment towards regulatory licensing, and looking at other costs in respective design, setting out our kind of initial marketing strategies. With runway and where we're at with that, so of course, having raised the convertible, as well as the personal savings that we've invested into the company, we've got an 8-month runway. Just in terms of where we're at with our raise. So at the moment, just in about 2 weeks, we're opening an early access angel round. This is for advisors who are looking to join us both in an angel capacity, and it's going to be on the same terms as the convertible that we've signed with the accelerator that we're part of. At the end of the first quarter, so about April, we will be opening up an institutional round for VCs to come in, and that's going to be at about 1.5 million in terms of the size of the round.
How much? So that was a 2.1 million cap on the note. Is that right? And so how much are you going to take in for this advisory round?
So we're only looking at about 200,000 for this advisory round. And the aim of this advisory round is to allow us to build a bridge until the end of the year, by when we're expecting to parallelly close this VC round that we'll be opening up.
Okay, thank you.
On this credit program, so can you walk me through why you think that needs to be part of your business?
So why does the credit score need to be part of our business? Is that the question?
No, sorry, the card, the credit card.
Oh, right, okay.
Card.
So the focus of the debit card is to be able to really get the user as close to the transaction as possible. We see this to be a natural extension of the product because of the demographic that we're targeting. So, our users are between the ages of 18 to 25. By the time they become, let's say 3-4 years down the lane, they're going to become regular customers with disposable income at hand. The stage that they're at right now, they're cash rich, with day-to-day income, but credit poor. We want them to become both cash rich and credit rich, and then be able to capitalize on that even further. And this, in terms of trajectory and validation of the pipeline, is something that's been established both by fintechs in the West and East. I think Chime is a brilliant example. Credit Karma is another one that's just being acquired.
Yes, but Chime doesn't provide a credit score or build a credit profile, right? They're a data point that then Experian, TransUnion can use, Equifax can use, but they're not on both sides of the transaction. So that's where I have some worry between you having a revenue model of people swiping over here. I know it's a prepaid, but nonetheless, and then that filtering into a credit score that then you sell ultimately to banks, and whether there's some type of issue there. I'm not sure. I'm trying to still wrap my head around it. Where do you see, like, 3 years down the line? Are you a credit score provider? Like, are you in the same conversation as TransUnion, Experian in the West, or are you a fintech that has all these different credit profiles and both credit profiles as well as credit products that you're offering to customers?
So I think the direction for the company, just in terms of 3 years, is becoming the centralized source to build, monitor, and report credit. Just going back on the regulatory risk that Joy highlighted earlier, the initial approach will, of course, be to complement the existing scores that credit bureaus offer, because then we're able to provide contextual information. But the way that we see ourselves developing for this demographic is ultimately becoming the reference point for a bank to make a decision. The element around qualifying users for financial services, which was the second part of your question, naturally falls into that cycle, because ultimately, if we just provide a score, then we're not solving a problem. We're just reporting data, right? Which currently the AECB does. It's unfriendlier data, but it doesn't convert the customer. So the grassroots level problem is that this region is out of the system and we can't get them into the system otherwise. How that affects or how that clashes with the card. So strictly speaking, from our conversations with banks, we haven't had this as a concern, although we've ourselves have tabled this just to, sort of manage their expectations, and they don't see this to be a problem. In a very interesting way to look at this would be, what's to stop a bank from introducing 15 credit cards? Aren't they all competing with one another? It doesn't make sense. Why not just focus on one card? But it is what the consumer in this market wants. I think, I think Joy also highlighted the demographics, personalities around them being expats, them being open to exploring different options. And that definitely does factor in. Of course, we don't provide a credit card. So, the score wouldn't actually, the card, the virtual card would just be an enabler to build your score, but it's not a product that you can pre-qualify for. That's a different component of the application. And that's sort of the direction that we see ourselves, going forward in.
Yeah. And my question wasn't based, I'm not as worried about competition or cannibalism of other products. It's more of, it's more of, is it the right thing to feed into your own scoring mechanism? Is that data going to be helpful or not? And last question for me, just on building the actual credit scoring. So you mentioned it was a CTO with a full stack engineer that built it. Was any historical data used around correlation between how certain aspects perform versus default?
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear you.
Was any historical data used in building, and is there any back testing that's been done on this data?
Yeah. So whether we've used historical data to feed into the engine in terms of testing out and validating the logic, yep, that's been done. And these, the way we've defined micropayments is by observing transactional history, and that's why we've come up with that feature of tagging or untagging a payment based on whether or not you're choosing to continue with it. Just in terms of the next obvious step or the direction for us is, as soon as the product is out into the market on a full capacity next month, these beta users are becoming the pile of data that will be fed into this engine. The engine gets processed and refined more and more as you continue to feed in data. So the score will continue to get validated as we're able to kind of expand that further.
Thanks.
Thanks, Simon.
All right, and we're going to get into the final, I guess, deliberation, unless, Joy, you have any questions or final comments? Nope. Cool. All right, so I'm going to take the judges off real quick. So, Maimuna, you guys have a specific ask for today? Like, what is your current kind of raise that you guys are going through right now?
So as I just mentioned, we are opening up an early access round for advisors who are joining us in an angel capacity. This is a 200,000 round at the same terms as our convertible, which we've signed with our accelerator. And at the same time, in a quarter's time, we will be opening up a VC round. I'm more than happy to speak to Andrew, Simon, and Joy offline, if possible, to understand what works best for them, and if this is something that potentially be interested and the direction or the path at which they'd like to come in. This is entirely their decision.
So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to bring each of them individually to the stage. They can ask any final questions about valuation or, negotiate with you in terms of pricing or anything. And then I need them to decide specifically on this call whether they're going to move forward with an investment or whether they are not interested in participating in the angel round. And obviously there's going to be some diligence, and we'll obviously do some follow-ups afterwards. But for the sake of the show, we're going to have some decision making right now. So I'm actually going to why don't we bring Simon to the stage first? And so Simon, I guess give us some of your final thoughts and let us know if this angel round is something that you're interested in participating in.
Sure. So I think from a valuation perspective and your ask, totally fair. Like I have no reason to lower any of that. I'm curious on your thoughts around Egypt and if that's a market you've considered.
It is absolutely. So in order of priority, our top three are UAE, Saudi, and Egypt. Egypt is an obvious one because of the size of the demographic there and the debt level, as well as the increase in credit-based products that have recently come in the past 5 years.
Yep, totally agree. And I think on top of that, they're probably most behind in terms of some type of legitimate scoring mechanism. So I think timing is perfect. In terms of the round right now, I would not be able to commit, but it would be great to talk offline and just see kind of continue the conversation. I think you're right around the corner from a bigger round. Anyway, so it would be great to talk and kind of get us lined up if everything aligns to when you're ready to take on that bigger capital.
And Simon, what's a typical ticket size that you guys look for?
In where you're operating, it could be anything from 50 to 250.
Got it. All right. Well, I'll be sure to circle back with the both of you offline. So Simon is out. All right. Andrew, bringing to the stage next. Last minute thoughts, last minute feedback or questions for Maimuna, and then let us know if this is something that you want to participate in, or maybe this is something you want to pass on.
Well, so we don't do pre-seed. We typically don't do pre-seed even at home in Silicon Valley. And the further away the company is, the more we seek it to be late stage. Just because it's hard for me to be driving by and help hire or fire a person or deal with emergencies that happen.
And when you say late stage, for you, is late stage like late seed or Series A, or like beyond that?
Well, so we do about 75 companies in pre-A. A lot of those have 100K MRR. When we know the founders, there's founders that if they ask me for funding and I don't even know the name of the company, I would say yes, because I know them. So that's before they incorporate. So there's some of that, but about 75% of our money goes into what we call Series A, which typically have over 5 million of ARR, annual recurring revenue at that point. Growth is sort of that later B and C where we happen to have some, an LP that's a bank in Egypt or something that we could just bring in, which we don't have, we'd love to have. So we're not suitable to be investing. I'm really here to support you and what all you guys are doing. If, I could be of any help at all, but as well as it's great for me to learn. But Maimuna, I would also, if you've got these two banks you mentioned or two financial institutions that are teed up to be users or customers, I would focus on, can you disclose who they are? If not, it's understood. But if you can, that could be powerful to position it as, hey, we're working with these two strategics. Also, I know a lot about corporate venture capital, and I think every financial institution should have a corporate venturing program or strategy of some kind, simply to access the kind of innovation that you're bringing. So, I think it might be worth trying to navigate the digital transformation group or just getting as high up as you can into those and seeing if they might be interested in putting a chunk of money into the equity round and really solidifying their relationship, with you as a source of capital. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are reluctant to show weakness in front of their prospective customer, and so they don't want to have that conversation. But I think that people know what stage you're at, and I like being honest and open and just say, hey, we can do this for you. If you just gave us like $100,000 a month over a 12-month period, we've got our full stack team. I mean, we're ready to rock this for you. Sometimes that can be an easier path than, talking to VCs that are, driven on the numbers. But I like the advisory round that if you're going to get diluted, bring people that you would have just given the equity to. I think that's very, very smart. and I wish you all the best. I think with the pitch though, if you can highlight who these two prospects are, like the name of the bank or financial player, that sounds like a good idea. I was a little wondering, I think Simon had brought it up of, is the data you're getting elective by the user? Like they choose to not disclose that they're defaulting on Spotify, but they choose to disclose that they're paying their student loan. Like that was just a little wondering the validity of the data.
Yeah, I mean, thanks so much, Andrew, for those suggestions. And I think everything that you've said is perfectly valid. Just on the advisory round, a little bit of information that's still under the wraps. So the advisors that are joining us are ex-bankers who have formerly been part of heading these digital transformation teams at some of the banks that we're in conversations with. Our discussions are fairly early stage with them. As much as I'd love to, I personally prefer, like yourself, to remain honest and only put down a client on a deck if we truly have them fully locked in. Until I see a ring on my finger, I don't want to put one on the deck. So, I'd really like to kind of follow that approach, but happy to kind of share information about that offline if you're interested and want to know about that. Just on the, election of data point. So yes.
I know, Maimuna, we lost you. Maimuna, can you hear us? Hey, Monica, if you're there, I might have to swap you in if we can't get Maimuna back. So, Monica, I'm going to bring you to this.
Maybe pass over to Joy. Maybe if Joy's internet's working.
Yeah.
It is, Andrew.
There you go. Very reliable.
So look, I heard what you said. So I've tried many times to work with the banks, being in Dubai for the last 8 years, right? Integration and getting them to work on projects and actually getting them to incorporate with you is a very tough thing. So I like what you said. I thought about it myself when we were at Fetcher, when we were trying to get these banks on and then creating product for them, and then they use us and it's a great use case. And it's a very tough thing to get a bank on board, just to let you know.
Okay.
So I liked your idea. I've been there. I've been there. It's painful. It's like, meeting after meeting after meeting. These are old school banks, and these are old school guys who are running it, and getting them to budge even 1 inch, or even to look at anything that's even remotely good for them is just an impossible feat. So
yeah, I've had the same experience of trying to get them to invest in my fund. That the dangerous thing is they'll take the meeting, they'll take the dinner, and then you're just going around and around, and they're not.
I believe me, I've had meetings with the banks where we've had meetings to have meetings, and then meetings to discuss that meeting, and then a meeting to discuss the meeting about what we're going to do about the following meeting. And in the meantime, it's a waste of your life. So it's corporate, it's death by meetings. So great advice. But when you said it, I was like, boy, have I been there. Okay. I like what you said. And I think, Simon, I have the same kind of thinking in my brain, which is you're putting in the data. So you're going to put in data that is going to be more skewed to help you and help your numbers. So it's not like you don't have a choice. You know what I mean? It's like you can gamify it a little bit, which scares me, right? Because of the accuracy, the gaming part of it.
Exactly. Yeah. Let me just echo the banking issue too. Like, we've been working on an app, a remittance app in Egypt. We've been having conversations with some of the biggest banks there with the C-level. So we're talking to the right people for over 12 months now. And it's just, it's meetings about meetings to have more meetings. So it's going to be, I think that'll be a tricky thing to navigate. But once you get one or two, it's all downhill.
Well, you can say the same thing about investments, right? I've raised $100 million. All you need is the lead, and then everything falls, right? You need that lead. So you could say that about anything, right? You need that one.
Awesome. Well, I see Maimuna is back. All right. Well, that's it, guys. I think we're wrapping up. Maimuna, Monica, I think you guys have some fantastic follow-ups with Simon, Andrew, and Joy here.
I think you guys did an amazing job. Honestly,
yeah, I agree.
You guys, I very rarely come across impressive women. I'm sorry, in the MENA region And I want to say that you are both seriously impressive women, right? You're articulate. You think very clearly. You relay messages. You're organized. Your app, the way you have your videos, are structured beautifully. These guys are not used to, maybe you guys are, but honestly, you're very impressive. I think what you guys need to do going forward, and I'm glad to take this offline, Mamuna, utilize me. I've been, 6 years, 6,000 employees, 6 countries, utilize me. Okay. What I'm going to tell you, because I'm always there to help women. What I'm going to tell you is that you've got the right idea. You're still not 100% there. The idea is brilliant. You're still missing the, I don't know how to say it. You're missing the accuracy, the credibility of this is 100% accurate. There's still that gamification that needs to be solved. But you're spot on. You're spot on. So talk to me offline. I'm right here in your backyard. I'm in Dubai.
Thanks so much, Joy. Andrew, Simon, it's been a pleasure speaking to everyone today. And thank you so much for the feedback. I think, we also agree to the extent that, there is risk of abuse. So is with any credit scoring engine. But I think we are factoring in, as we're learning through validating data from users and, of course, everyone around us that's been giving us great advice, how to be able to mitigate that risk really well. So, as much as we do give users the option to kind of plug in and out of what they constitute a recurring subscription, we do verify that against the transactional history. But at the end of the day, we've got to start somewhere, and I think with open banking and with fintechs in the region, we've got a long way to go. But we're trying to become friends with regulators each day, and hopefully we're all going to be part of the same club someday.
Well, I just want to say, on the topic of women, I'd like to see the Silicon Valley, New York, United States catch up with the Middle East on having so many women-led entrepreneurs. I remember being a startup in Istanbul. I couldn't believe half the pitches were women, and almost all the Saudi pitches were women. And I said, "Man, when is the United States and UK going to catch up to the Middle East? We've got a very small percentage going at home."
I'm going to tell you something that's going to blow your mind. You ready for this? I mean, I'm from Silicon Valley, right? I'm from the Bay Area.
I remember, Fetcher, you pitched us a long time ago. I was impressed the first time. Yeah.
Okay. Andrew, did you invest?
I make my anti-portfolio is getting worse by the minute. But anyway.
Well, listen, I exited 2 years ago.
I remember. I know.
I exited before all the drama. But what I wanted to, oh my God, look, my Alzheimer's is setting in. What I wanted to tell you is that honestly, the amount of women founders in this region is definitely more than what I'm seeing in Silicon Valley. And I want to tell you something here too that's going to blow your mind. People ask me all the time, "Oh, is there equality for women? You're in the Middle East, blah, blah, blah." So I'm going to answer this question, Andrew. There is neither, and I mean, Andrew, both Andrews. Okay, in Silicon Valley, there's no equality for women and there's no respect. Here in the Middle East, there's no equality, but at least there's respect. There's a respect for women. There's a reverence for women. So it's easier to be a woman founder in the Middle East than it is in Silicon Valley on Sand Hill Road. And I have experienced both. There's more respect for women here than there is on Sand Hill, honestly.
Joy, we should have you on my podcast. I've been accused of not having enough women on my podcast, where I'm mostly talking to VCs, and there's just a small percentage. I've got my own ideas as why this is happening, but Andrew, one day we can only try to catch up.
Well, I'm a character. I was on CNN yesterday. I did a whole podcast on Follow That Startup on CNN. But yeah, Andrew, glad to do it. I'm definitely a character. That's why they keep calling me back.
Okay. I'll see if your old email still works. I think I have it.
No, my first and last name at Gmail.
Okay, very good.
All right, awesome. Well, Andrew, Joy, Simon, I'm going to thank you guys so much for participating.
Call me.
Will do. Thanks, Joy. Thanks, everyone.
All right, guys. So that was the final pitch from Pitch Me to Live. Again, that was the culmination of a 16 startup competition. FinLec was the winner, so they had the opportunity to pitch this great panel of sharks. And we're so grateful for the sharks for joining us today. And we are almost done, guys. We have 2 more sessions today that are super relevant based on what we just talked about. The first session is going to be by our good friend at the Export-Import Bank of the United States. Ursula is going to be joining us in about 5 or 6 minutes. And we're going to discuss all the incentives that the Exim Bank provides to U.S.-based diasporans to invest back home. That includes financing options. That includes credit risk mitigation options. And we're super grateful for Ursula for coming on. But guys, I am going to pop on over to the other stream. I'll see you guys in about 5 minutes, and we'll get started with Ursula.